I learned a lot. Mentally, I feel like I'm able to understand more. I feel like I'm able to. And the thing was, I was always great at understanding perspectives and stuff because you got to really take a deep dive at how we grew up. Like when we grew up, my dad had us in a 30,000 square foot home. Then after that, he took us to go play ball in the inner city. You know, after that, we transferred and he moved us across town because he wanted us to get that dog in us, you know, to have that mentality, to have that it factor in us. So then we went to charter schools, and I don't know if you're familiar with charter schools, and like, you know, it's not the best, but you know, you got a lot of different people from different situations that you got to be able to adapt to. So that's where all those core different things of being able to relate, being able to understand. But now, since I went through everything the past 6 months, it led me to a whole different understanding, you know, and it led me in my own experience with God, with having faith, you know, when nobody else can help you in your situation, you know, but God, you know. So that's why I'm truly thankful and I'm truly happy. And this is the first time I've never had stress, you know. I did the work. I did everything I can in my power I was able to do. So the rest was left up to him.
Are they in the truth? Yeah. Here we go.
Go 12, you got us, baby.
Hey, got us. The work already been done, bro. We already worked for this shit. You feel me? It's us. Let's do it. We believe. I believe in God. I believe in me. Let's do it. Hey, one on me. 1 on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Go, y'all know the motto. Get a hit for I know. My people know it's mad dog. TV, let's go. To every other city, every city I go. From Colorado to the Bayou I go. Y'all know the motto. Get a hit for I know. My people know it's mad dog. TV, let's go. To every other city I go. From Colorado to the Bayou I go. Y'all know the motto. Get a hit for
Shedeur Sanders just got into a heated confrontation with a Browns assistant coach after multiple staff members were caught laughing and making disrespectful comments about Deion Sanders during a closed practice session. And what happened next is sending shockwaves through the entire Cleveland organization right now. We're talking about a situation that went from whispered disrespect to a full-blown locker room explosion in a matter of seconds, with Shedeur standing up for his father's legacy in a way that has some people calling him a hero and others questioning whether he can handle the pressure of playing professional football. This isn't just another practice dust-up that gets swept under the rug. This is about respect, family, and a young quarterback drawing a line that should never have needed to be drawn in the first place. What I'm about to break down is going to show you exactly what was said, how Shedeur responded, and why this incident reveals everything that's been wrong with Cleveland's treatment of their franchise quarterback from day one.
How amazing would it be to see Jordan Tyson reunite with the Sanders, in particular with Shedeur Sanders ahead of the 2026 NFL season? Jordan Tyson is expected to be one of the first wide receivers taken in this year's 2026 NFL draft. And what's more interesting is that he has a very good or interesting relationship with the Sanders, in particular primetime Deion Sanders. I'm gonna play this video clip so you guys can hear Joe Klatt speak out about what it would mean.
Let me set the scene for you, because the context of how this whole thing went down is absolutely crucial to understanding why Shedeur reacted the way he did and why he was completely justified in doing so. It's a Tuesday morning practice at the Browns facility. Nothing out of the ordinary on the schedule, just a standard midweek session working on red zone packages and third down situations. Shedeur is going through his progressions, hitting his targets, doing everything the coaching staff has asked him to do. By all accounts, it's a good practice. Energy is high, execution is solid, and the offense is clicking. But off to the side, away from where most players can hear, but not quite far enough away from where Shedeur's standing, there's a group of assistant coaches huddled together. And according to multiple sources who were present at this practice, one of them makes a comment about Deion Sanders that immediately gets the attention of everyone within earshot. The exact wording varies depending on who you ask, but the general sentiment was mocking Deion's coaching style, questioning whether he actually knew anything about modern football, and suggesting that Shedeur only got opportunities because of his last name rather than his actual talent. And then, and this is the part that set everything off, multiple coaches started laughing, not just polite chuckles, but full-on laughter, like it was the funniest thing they'd heard all week. Now, most of the players on the field didn't hear the comment itself, but Shedeur did, and the second those coaches started laughing, the entire energy of the practice shifted. You could feel it. Players who were mid-drill suddenly stopped and looked around, trying to figure out what just happened. The quarterback's coach, who wasn't part of the group that was laughing, immediately knew something was wrong because he saw Shedeur's entire body language change in real time. Shedeur stopped mid-throw, ball still in his hand, and he turned around and stared directly at the group of coaches who'd been laughing. And for about 5 seconds, nobody said anything. The practice just stopped. Everyone was watching, waiting to see what was about to happen. And then Shedeur walked. Not jogging, not running, walking with purpose directly toward the assistant coaches who'd been disrespecting his father. And the closer he got, the quieter the entire practice facility became until you could literally hear every single footstep echoing through the building. When Shedeur got within a few feet of the coaching group, he didn't yell, he didn't scream, he didn't lose his composure. He looked directly at the coach who'd made the original comment and said something that multiple witnesses have confirmed. "If you've got something to say about my father, say it to my face. Don't laugh behind my back like a coward." The assistant coach, and according to sources, this was one of the offensive line coaches who's been with Cleveland for years, tried to play it off, tried to act like Shedeur misheard or misunderstood, tried to de-escalate with some generic, "we were just joking around" type response. But Shedeur wasn't having it. He stepped closer, maintained eye contact, and kept his voice steady but firm. "My father's forgotten more about football than you'll ever know, and the fact that you're standing here disrespecting him while I'm out here executing everything you've asked me to do tells me everything I need to know about this organization."
I already had them grabbing Spencer Fano at tackle early in this first round. Okay, I'm going to give them Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver from Arizona State. But here's what's so fascinating. You got Shedeur Sanders there in Cleveland. Jordan Tyson started his career at Colorado. Now, he had a pretty decent freshman year, and then Deion Sanders gets the job, and it just wasn't a fit. And so he ended up transferring to Arizona State. He had some injuries that first year, and then he became just an incredible player at Arizona State. He went to Deion this last fall.
That's when things escalated. Because instead of apologizing, instead of acknowledging that the comment was out of line, the assistant coach got defensive. Started talking about how Shedeur needed to focus on football instead of worrying about what coaches say in private conversations. Started suggesting that maybe Shedeur was too sensitive, too emotional, too concerned with his father's reputation to focus on his own career. And that's when Shedeur's teammates started getting involved, because up until this point, most of them were just watching, trying to process what was happening. But the second they heard a coach basically telling their quarterback that standing up for his family made him weak, multiple players stepped forward in support of Shedeur. Veteran offensive linemen, receivers, even some defensive players who'd been on the other side of the field. They formed a semicircle around Shedeur and made it very clear through their body language that if this coach wanted to keep disrespecting their quarterback, he was going to have to deal with a lot more than just one upset player. The head coach, who'd been at a meeting and wasn't even on the field when this started, came running out as soon as someone told him what was happening. And to his credit, he immediately tried to de-escalate. He pulled the assistant coach aside, had a brief but clearly intense conversation with him, and then addressed the entire team. According to people who were there, the head coach's message was basically that emotions were running high, that things were said that shouldn't have been said, and that everyone needed to refocus on football. But what he didn't do, and this is crucial, was make the assistant coach apologize. He didn't publicly acknowledge that disrespecting Deion was out of line. He didn't validate Shedeur's response or make it clear that the organization stood behind their franchise quarterback. Instead, he just tried to move past it and get practice back on track. And that response, or lack thereof, told Shedeur everything he needed to know about where he actually stood with this organization. Practice resumed, but the vibe was completely different. Players were going through the motions, but nobody's heart was in it anymore. Shedeur finished the session, but sources say he barely spoke to any coaches for the rest of the day. And after practice ended, he went straight to the locker room, grabbed his stuff, and left the facility without doing his usual media availability or post-practice film review. Now, word of this incident spread through the organization within hours, and by that evening it was leaking to local media. Not the full details, because obviously the organization wanted to control the narrative and minimize the damage, but enough that reporters started asking questions about tension between Shedeur and the coaching staff. The Browns' official statement was predictably vague, something about competitive environments naturally leading to passionate moments and everyone in the organization having the utmost respect for Shedeur and his family. But anyone who's been following this team knows that statement was pure damage control, with zero substance behind it. Because here's the reality that Cleveland doesn't want to admit publicly. This wasn't an isolated incident. This was the boiling over of months of accumulated disrespect, subtle undermining, and an organizational culture that's never fully embraced Shedeur as their franchise quarterback.
After their matchup with Colorado, to apologize about the way things went. He said, hey, I wasn't ready, I wasn't mature enough when you came in and it didn't work out, but hey, I just wanted to apologize for the way everything went. This shows maturity. All of that. Now he can reunite with the Sanders family. Maybe you bury the hatchet, you give Shedeur a really good target on the outside. I think that would be a cool story.
It would definitely be a cool story. And as I mentioned earlier, Jordan Tyson was expected to play with Shedeur Sanders.
Let's talk about the pattern of behavior that led to this moment, because if you've been paying attention to how Cleveland has treated Shedeur since day one, this confrontation shouldn't surprise you at all. From the moment Shedeur arrived in Cleveland, there's been a disconnect between what the organization says publicly and how they actually treat him behind closed doors. Publicly, they talk about building around him, supporting his development, and viewing him as the future of the franchise. But privately, the constant competition they keep bringing in, the leaked stories questioning his leadership, the offensive schemes that don't maximize his strengths, the media narratives that always seem to find a way to blame him when things go wrong while giving credit to everyone else when things go right. And the disrespect toward Deion has been there the entire time, just usually more subtle. Comments about how college coaching doesn't translate to the NFL. Suggestions that Shedeur might be overcoached by his father. Whispers about whether Deion's involvement in Shedeur's career is actually helping or hurting his development. All of that has been bubbling under the surface for months, and this practice incident was just the moment when it finally exploded into the open, where everybody could see it. Now let's address the criticism that's already starting to circulate, because predictably there are people saying Shedeur overreacted, that he should have just ignored the comment and focused on football, that getting into it with coaches shows immaturity and an inability to handle adversity. And to all of those people, I have one simple question. At what point is a man allowed to defend his father's legacy without being called too sensitive? Deion Sanders is a Hall of Fame player. He's a successful college coach who's transformed every program he's touched. He's mentored countless young athletes and helped them achieve their dreams. And most importantly to this situation, he's Shedeur's father, the man who raised him, coached him, and prepared him for every challenge he's faced in his football career. So when assistant coaches who haven't accomplished a fraction of what Deion has accomplished stand around laughing and disrespecting him, yeah, Shedeur has every right to say something. That's not being too sensitive. That's having a backbone. That's understanding that some lines shouldn't be crossed, and when they are, somebody needs to speak up. The narrative that Shedeur should have just let it slide because that's how locker rooms are, or coaches talk trash all the time, is exactly the kind of toxic thinking that allows disrespect to become normalized. And Shedeur refusing to accept that disrespect doesn't make him weak, it makes him strong. Think about what would have happened if Shedeur had just ignored the comment and kept practicing. Those coaches would have learned that they could disrespect Deion without any consequences. Other staff members would have gotten the message that the Sanders family is an acceptable target for mockery. And Shedeur would have sent a message to himself and his teammates that he's willing to tolerate disrespect as long as it keeps the peace. That's not leadership, that's cowardice, and Shedeur showed real leadership by drawing a line and making it clear that certain behaviors won't be tolerated. The reaction from around the league has been fascinating to watch because it's split almost entirely along predictable lines. Former players, especially those who've dealt with disrespectful coaching staffs, are publicly supporting Shedeur and saying he did exactly what he should have done. Current players are quietly liking social media posts that support him and having private conversations about how they wish they had the courage to stand up to coaches the way Shedeur did. Meanwhile, the old guard, the former coaches, the traditionalist analysts, the players should be seen and not heard crowd are criticizing Shedeur for being disrespectful to authority and not understanding the chain of command.
Jordan Tyson came in there to say, "Coach, I apologize." I said, "Young man, let me tell you something, man. I love you. I appreciate you. I pray to God that you're a top 10 pick, top 5 pick because you got it. You don't have to apologize to me. You're young, man. I was young. I was making some of the same mistakes when I was a short of your age. I'm just thankful that you got on the right course." He's trying his best to walk with the Lord.
But here's what that divide really tells us. It's a generational and cultural split between people who think players should just shut up and accept whatever treatment they get, and people who understand that athletes are human beings who deserve to be treated with dignity and respect regardless of their age or position on the roster. And honestly, the fact that standing up for your father's honor is controversial in some circles tells you everything you need to know about how broken the power dynamics in professional sports really are. Now, let's talk about what happens next, because this incident isn't going away quietly no matter how much Cleveland wants it to. Sources close to Shedeur say he's demanded a meeting with ownership to address not just this specific incident, but the broader pattern of disrespect he's experienced since joining the organization. He wants a clear commitment that coaching staff who undermine him will face real consequences. He wants assurances that his family, especially Deion, will be treated with the respect they've earned. And he wants the organization to decide once and for all whether they're actually committed to building around him or if they're just going to keep him in limbo while they explore other options. That's not a young player making unreasonable demands. That's a franchise quarterback using his leverage to demand the basic respect he should have been getting from day one. And if Cleveland can't or won't provide that respect, then Shedeur's camp is prepared to explore other options. Trade requests, free agency conversations, whatever it takes to get him into a situation where he's valued, supported, and treated like the elite player he's proven himself to be. The Browns have a choice to make right now. They can side with their assistant coach who disrespected one of football's legends, or they can side with their franchise quarterback who stood up for his family and his values, and the decision they make is going to define this organization's future. Because if they choose wrong, they're not just going to lose Shedeur Sanders, they're going to send a message to every current and future player that personal dignity matters less than organizational hierarchy, and that speaking up about disrespect will get you labeled as a problem instead of getting the problem addressed. So, here's where this all lands. Shedeur Sanders did exactly what any man with integrity would do when his father was being disrespected. He stood up, he confronted the people responsible, and he made it clear that certain lines can't be crossed without consequences. Cleveland's coaching staff showed who they really are with their response, and now the organization has to decide whether they're going to support their franchise quarterback or continue enabling a culture of disrespect that's been poisoning this team from the inside for months. This wasn't an overreaction. This was a necessary stand that's been a long time coming, and the NFL is watching to see how Cleveland responds. So I need to hear from you right now. Was Shedeur right to confront those coaches, or should he have just let it go and focused on football? If someone disrespected your father in your workplace, would you stay silent or would you say something? And honestly, is Cleveland about to lose their franchise quarterback because they can't create a culture of basic respect? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this story is far from over and everyone's got an opinion on what should happen next. And if you're not subscribed, hit that button right now because we're covering every single development in this situation. And trust me, this is just the beginning.